Hey, it's Stu Peters and Richard Leonard on this Tuesday, October 20th, 2020. And one thing that is consistent with Tuesday, October 20th, 2020, boy, that's a tongue twister, and every other day of our lives is that we support law enforcement. We defend police, defend cops. We back the blue. We also love coffee. Yeah, okay. And if you love coffee too and you back the blue, you can show that support right now because a portion of all of the proceeds and sales from Law Dog Coffee goes to the Wounded Blue. So now you can drink great coffee and support the blue all in one. Hey, that web address is right up there at the top of the screen. It is lawdogcoffeepcradio.com. Lawdogcoffeepcradio.com. Get over there. 10% off all your purchases right now when you use the promo code PCRadio. Back the blue, drink good coffee. That's about it, right?
It.
All right, let's get on with the show. Law Dog Coffee, PCRadio.com.
Broadcasting live from the highest cloud of privileged patriotism. The PC Radio Show is on. Mojo 50 Radio.
The snow is falling here in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Disgusting. Absolutely gross. I don't like plowing it. I don't like walking in it. I don't like driving in it, slipping and sliding in it. I'm a poet and don't know it. It's coming out of my rap days here. Anyway, you have anything positive to say here this afternoon?
Well, what about Cloud Hub? That's positive.
Positive, yes. We are on Cloud Hub, channel 200. If you have not had an opportunity to get over and create yourself a Cloud Hub account, make sure that you do that. Yes. Uncensored, fair, unbiased. You'll never be kicked off of there for standing up for your views. And it's just appalling to me that we're still in an environment that we're now in an environment in 2020 where you can literally just be kicked off of the largest social media platforms, i.e. Twitter and Facebook, simply for giving your viewpoint. It's insane. I was reading on Twitter again this morning on OpsLens. By the way, another great app. Make sure that you go download that. You'll never be kicked off of there either. You can also become a citizen journalist by giving us all of your, videos and stuff like that, inside stories and whatever. But I was looking on Twitter this morning, and I think I lost it here now, but there's a story about people who were actually beat up by Antifa and Black Lives Matter people. You saw the black guy who had his teeth kicked out, and then there was a white girl who had the shit kicked out of her for carrying an American flag and being there to support President Trump. And then when she told her story on Facebook, she got completely deleted. Her whole account was completely gone, and she has no access to her pictures or her stories or anything from the past. None of her memories will be there. They are forever gone, and no way for her to get it back. Richard, this is 100% socialism. This is communism right here. This is fascism. This is a totalitarianist takeover.
It's complete bullshit that nowadays you can't even respect your flag. You can't even carry your flag without getting beat up. So what flag is it that all these assholes are, carrying and supporting and paying homage to?
Well, I think it's predominantly red, and I think there's some yellow in the upper left-hand corner there.
Oh, with stars. And
bowing to your Chinese masters. There was actually a picture circulating of some young kids, presumably college-age kids, that were standing in the street with a banner that said, "Trump is the enemy, capitalism is the problem, the solution is socialism." They're embracing this. This is what they want. They want to censor you and I, and they want to live off the tit of the government for the rest of their life. It's really sad that these kids are being indoctrinated at such a young age to give up the fight that is within them. Go watch The Patriot. I finally made Marie watch that movie. I know that we talked about it ad nauseum here last week, and we don't need to get back into that again, but we're there again. And anyway, so moving on. President Trump, 2 rallies yesterday in Arizona. By the way, the former vice president, who's now under investigation, we had speculated that the former vice president, if elected, would not finish his first term. Everybody knows that. Even 42% of likely Democrat voters acknowledge that they're voting for Kamala Harris, because they know that he won't, or they predict or feel that he won't make it through his first term. I thought it was going to be because of his health. It's clear that he's not of sound mind. He doesn't know what state he's in most of the time. He flubs around. He gets lost with a teleprompter. It's here. He goes, get that up. Get that up.
Closer.
He thinks he's running for Senate. I mean, and then so I thought that maybe it would be his health, and that his wife Jill would be, in front of all of the big blood-sucking mainstream media cameras. Oh my God, my husband, he can't fulfill the duties of the presidency. He's got dementia, and so Kamala, it's Kamala now. You have Kamala and Nancy Pelosi.
Stupid.
But I don't think it's going to be that. I think if he's even allowed to continue running, if this Hunter thing doesn't completely blow up in the next couple of weeks, I think that if he were to win, that he'll be arrested. He'll go to prison right alongside Hunter Biden and right alongside of Hillary Clinton. Hopefully, justice is going to start being served. Bill Barr is a great attorney general, and I think that he's very fair, and he's going to start investigating this type of stuff. But we better hurry up. We better get it done right now. But there's a bona fide FBI investigation now into the laptop that Hunter Biden left behind. And
did they say something about child porn or something?
The FBI agent that is investigating it, that has taken it in, his role with the FBI is to investigate child pornography. So it's safe to assume, I guess. I mean, it would be, unless the FBI is just so busy that they assign, national security stuff to an FBI agent that normally does child porn. I mean, I guess it's pretty safe to assume. Anyway, 2 rallies from the... Go ahead, Richard. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Well, I mean, I was just going to say, unfortunately, I don't think that there's any lack of child porn watchers in our country. So I'm sure that it's not because the FBI is too busy and this dude is not.
Right. The president of the United States had COVID, a week ago or so?
2 weeks?
Yep, giving campaign speeches all over the place, 2 a day in most cases. He gave 2 in Florida the other day. He was 2 in somewhere else. I forget where he was. I mean, it's hard to keep track of the guy. He gets up at 3 o'clock in the morning and starts working. Yesterday, he was in Prescott, Arizona, and in Tucson, Arizona, and he made quite the statement here.
And your state is doing great. You have a great governor, as you know, and your state is doing great. With a pandemic. They're getting tired of the pandemic, aren't they? Getting tired of the pandemic. You turn on CNN, that's all they cover. COVID, pandemic, COVID. You know why? They're trying to talk everybody out of voting. People aren't buying at CNN, you dumb bastards. They're not buying.
Yeah.
That's all they talk about.
They're trying to talk people out of voting. That is the president's platform, and he's right. They're trying to talk everybody out of having a voice. If you have a voice on Twitter, you're going to get deleted. If you have a voice on Facebook, you're going to get deleted. If you write an article and submit it to the New York Times, it's never going to get published, okay? I mean, the only censor-free platforms that are really out there right now are CloutHub, maybe Parler. Parler is pretty conservative leaning, but you're never going to get deleted from there for supporting your country or supporting the president. But it is a big echo chamber. But CloutHub welcomes everybody, and so does OpsLens. So I would encourage you to go get those 2 apps and download those. The president, to his point, the media is basically interfering in our election now, and this is the very definition of voter intimidation. They're using this COVID stuff to try to scare you, Richard, and your elderly mother or your elderly auntie from going. By the way, shout out to Aunt Shelley. I saw you over there cooking. Yep. Anyway, so they're trying to intimidate people from going to the polls and voting by using COVID, something that has a 99.8% survival rate, to try to keep you from going to the polls and voting. That is the definition of voter intimidation. They're making something up and using something with absolutely no scientific data behind it. And I'm proud to see that the president is now actually coming out of the woodwork here and unleashing the dogs on Fauci. He's saying, look, everybody's tired of listening to this idiot and to these other idiots. They got it wrong. And there's no shame in saying, I got it wrong. But he's promoting a product is what he's doing. Fauci is involved with he's receiving money. He's enriching himself throughout this whole process. And I think it's something that we need to take a little bit closer look at.
Well, I don't get how the polls are going to be so dangerous. I mean, I went to the grocery store last night to buy food for my family, and I probably touched that keypad to enter in my phone number for the little rewards program and to press enter for my card transaction. I probably press that thing and touch that thing more than I'll touch anything other than a pen and a piece of paper when I go to the polls to submit my vote into that little copy machine looking thing.
Yeah. And, a lot of people
Stupid.
they're starting to speak out against it. I see a lot more never maskers. That's what I'm going to call them from now on, the never maskers. They're walking right into places, real proud, taking their mask off. They don't even have a mask. They don't even own a mask in most cases, and they're taking these things off. I should stop talking like this because I'm really going to exponentially decrease the sale of our neck gaiters that we're going to be introducing here very soon to our PC radio store. And you're going to love them.
But it's going to be cold out, bro. And so the neck gaiters are very good to have on around your face when you're shoveling snow and
But even if you don't believe in masking for that reason, you're going to love these net gaiters because they display messages that you're going to absolutely love them. If you're part of the Relentless Truth Seeker Squad, you're going to want these. And elderly people are starting to speak up as well. In Colorado, we have this news story.
Residents of a nursing and rehabilitation facility in Greeley organized a protest against Colorado's coronavirus restrictions. About 20 people from Fair Acres Manor gathered outside, many in wheelchairs, holding signs reading, quote, "I'd rather die from COVID than loneliness and prisoners in our own home." The community relations director for the facility says residents are upset about COVID restrictions from the state. Residents at Fair Acres Manor are allowed to have visitors, but they have to stay 6 feet apart and not touch each other. Staff members were there during the protest to support the residents. All were wearing protective gear. Katie Johnston covering Colorado First.
Thanks, Katie. So look, at older people are now saying, look, and they're right. Even those that are over 70 years old, I think the last number that I saw was 94.6% survival rate. Yeah. And that's just over 70. So that doesn't mean 70 years old. That means anywhere from 70 to 105. Speaking of 100-year-olds, did you see the president yesterday in Arizona, or was it the other day in Florida? I guess I don't remember. I'm getting lost with all of it. He's so busy.
He's just so many rallies, yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, to honor a veteran, a World War II veteran, he stood up a 100-year-old man that is in probably just as good a shape as the president appears to be in. And so that was quite something. He's an America-loving individual, and he is a true patriot, the president is. And he has done nothing but fight for this country. The wall is getting done. He is draining the swamp. He's giving tax breaks to business owners and to middle America. My taxes have never been better. I know it for a fact. Okay, so the proof is in the pudding. He believes in law enforcement. He's a law enforcement. He's a law and order president. He backs the blue, and he doesn't want to see this dangerous type lawlessness happening in these cities. But these Democratic-run strongholds are not allowing him to come in and take care of business. And the reason why they're not allowing him to do it is because then the president would look good leading up to a general election. And that's exactly what they don't want.
Yeah, man. I think here's the thing, man. I think that people need to understand that of course, there's no one perfect person in this world. And the president is a flawed man. But like you said, which I agree 100%. There's no doubt that every morning when he opens his eyes, if he even sleeps at this point, that he loves this country and he will do what it takes to ensure our safety, our freedom, our national security. I don't doubt that. Some people will say, well, I think President Trump is all right. He just needs to stop tweeting and shut his mouth every now and then. Well, maybe he does, but who gives a shit, right? I mean, he's still doing what's in the best interest of this country.
Well,
Everyone else can tweet however they want.
Well, no, not you and I. We can't. We'll be banned. And I disagree that he should shut up and stop tweeting. Because if he wasn't tweeting and if he wasn't saying this, the only thing that we would have to go on other than his rallies, if they're going to air them on television, which I think Fox is probably the only one that's still actually airing his rallies in their entirety. But if we weren't hearing directly from the president, look at the quote unquote news that we would be getting. The mainstream media is 100% in the tank for this Biden and for socialism, who, by the way, is hiding now, leading up to the debate. And there's new rules at the debate. There is a mute button now. The moderator is going to be able to mute the president. And in every single article that I was reading, it was due to the unprecedented amount of interruptions that the president, how many times he interrupted the former vice president. Well, let me ask you a question. If somebody lies about you for 4.5 years, for almost 5 years now, from the time that he came down that escalator, if somebody constantly lies about you and they go run to this camera and lie, and they run to that camera and lie, and they hold this conference and they lie, and then you are finally face to face with that person and they're spewing lies to you right in front of you, are you just going to sit there with your hands folded like a good little church boy, or are you going to interrupt the lie and stand up for yourself? So he wasn't bullying anybody. He was defending himself. By the way, Joe Biden is now hiding up until then, stating that he's doing debate prep. So what does debate prep really mean? He's gonna be told what to say by Kamala and all of their handlers over there. George Soros, his script. They're gonna go off of this socialist script. That he has to learn these lines over and over again. And now he's protected from being thrown off his kilter by the president because the president's going to be muted.
It's sad. It's sad. And if the worst thing that we could say about our president is that he tweets too much and that he interrupts his opponent who's been lying about him for almost 5 years, during a debate, if that's the worst thing that folks can come up with, other than he's a racist, which is false and has not been substantiated, then you can go jump off a bridge and suck my ass, because that's bullshit.
Wow, that's pretty vulgar.
Well, yeah, it is.
Okay.
So are all these other assholes.
Sorry, Mom. Sorry, Aunt Shelley. Sorry, Eva.
I'll be by for my bag of greens, Aunt Shelley.
All right. So wanted to show you this as well. I've been inundated with this particular commercial in my inbox. I think I've seen it about 150 times. If you haven't seen it, here it is, and it needs no explanation. Just take a look.
I will end the Muslim ban on day one. Day one. Hadith from the Prophet Muhammad instructs, whomever among you sees a wrong, let him change it with his hand. If he is not able, then with his tongue. If he is not able, then with his heart.
Make no mistake, people. 2020 is our year. Let's dive into it with 2020 vision. We can see clearly that America is fighting for its very soul.
We all come from the same root here in terms of our fundamental basic beliefs. And I just want to thank you for giving me the opportunity, for being engaged, for committing to action this November. It matters. Your voice is your vote. Your vote is your voice. Muslim American voices matter. I'll be a president who seeks out and listens to and incorporates the ideas and concerns of Muslim Americans on everyday issues that matter most to our communities. That will include having Muslim American voices as part of my administration.
But getting out the vote, getting our families out to vote, getting our elderly out to vote, getting our masjids out to vote, getting our neighborhoods out to vote. So let's do our part
and join the largest Muslim voter mobilization in America,
the Million Muslim Votes campaign. Let's roll up our sleeves. Let's make our voices heard. Because we got the means, we got the numbers, and we got the power.
From the streets to City Hall,
All right, so Richard, your thoughts on that?
I probably should digress because there's a whole lot of words that I probably get us some violations.
Oh boy. I don't think Clout Hub will ban us. I don't think Upslands will have anything to say about it, but we are broadcasting on iHeartRadio to nearly a million listeners, over 1 million listeners, and I would hate to get rid of that audience by having the FCC kick us off the airwaves. We're lucky to be on Mojo 50 Radio, and I want to try to keep that. But this is if this doesn't present some sort of a concern to you, then you're living under a rock, because this commercial has not been widely aired. I know that it's on YouTube with millions of views, and you didn't see it, but If you didn't see it, if you're listening on the radio, there was a scene in there where there's a black guy walking away from a cop after being handed his backpack back. I mean, this is anti-police rhetoric. This is anti-law and order rhetoric. This is very dangerous rhetoric. Speaking of rhetoric, the dangerous rhetoric that was going to stop Amy Coney Barrett from being confirmed, or the nomination, to try to stop the nomination while the Democrats were saying this is unconstitutional and all that. How about we just rewind the tapes for a second?
American people deserve a fully staffed court of 9.
The president nominates, and then the Senate advises and consents or not, but they go forward with the process.
What we're seeing here, and I hope this is temporary, is a disrespect for the Constitution.
The Constitution is 100% clear. The President of the United States has the right to nominate someone to be a justice of the Supreme Court. Senate's function is to hold hearings and to vote.
The blockade on filling a naturally occurring vacancy, in my view, is harmful to the independence of the Article III branch.
You cannot keep a seat on the Supreme Court, which represents all of us. You cannot keep it vacant against the Constitution.
Do pretty much everything they can to avoid acknowledging the legitimacy of our democratically elected president.
The American people expect the president's nominee to be given a fair hearing and a timely vote in the Senate.
Every day that goes by without a ninth justice is another day the American people's business is not getting done.
I say to you, do your job. Vote for a Supreme Court nominee.
Instead of just saying the blanket rule is no matter who you are, no matter what your qualifications, because you are sent by this president, we will create a unique rule for you and refuse to entertain you.
One of the most important consequences of who is president of the United States is who sits on the United States Supreme Court.
If you want to stop extremism in your party, you can start by showing the American people that you respect the President of the United States and the Constitution.
The American people deserve a fully staffed court of 9.
All right. Yes, they do. And they will have a fully staffed court of 9 as Amy Coney Barrett this Friday. I don't see anything that can stop the confirmation of her to the Supreme Court. But the hypocrisy here is absolutely absurd. Do these people, Richard, forget that there are recording devices in the room when they're talking?
They must, man, because they cannot. I don't understand how they can think that the American people are so stupid that nobody's going to find it and nobody's going to put it out and that nobody remembers the words that they say. What the hell is wrong with these folks?
Well, this is a true indication of this. It doesn't matter about the platform of the Democrats. It doesn't matter what Joe Biden's actual policy platform is. What matters here is your hate for Trump. The Trump derangement syndrome is real, and people are actually going to go out there and vote for Biden, for socialism, for Kamala, the most radical progressive to ever sit in the Senate. Okay, she made a
why
career.
Don't they just come out and say it?
Out of jailing black people. And now wants to, for marijuana crimes, and now says that she wants to legalize it. Joe Biden's son Hunter went and extracted millions of dollars from our adversaries, from Russia, from Ukraine, from China.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So what? But why not just come out and say it? Just come out and say that you hate the guy. Just say you hate him.
They do come out and say it. They come out and say it all the time. Have you been on Twitter lately? I mean, have you been
not blatantly? They don't blatantly say we're going to do all of this stuff just because we hate this guy, not because we think it's what's best for this country. We're not going to put in the best person for the job in the SCOTUS seat or anywhere else, and then you nominate the camel.
We're talking about two different groups of people. Excuse me. Wow. You're talking about you're talking about the politicians. You're talking about the radical progressive left in government. I'm talking about voters. Voters are going to get out there and go vote for Biden simply because they hate President Trump.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. There's no reasonable explanation. I mean, so we talked about before about asking these people, tell me why you support Joe Biden without mentioning Donald Trump. I've not had one person that can say, one person said, well, I don't agree with his healthcare initiative. Well, what is his healthcare initiative? Nobody. I mean, really? His healthcare initiative is to get rid of Obamacare, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
But nobody can do it. And it's absolutely asinine to me that you can hate somebody so much that you're willing to sacrifice
everything,
your potential freedom.
Yes.
And you're right. Everything.
You'll be sacrificing it all. Coming up in the second half, host of American Oct Radio, Mike Phillip, is going to be joining us on the show. My name is Stu. That's Richard. More PC Radio straight ahead. We're welcoming a Canadian in.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, it's Stu Peters and Richard Leonard for Law Dog Coffee Company. Welcome to Law Dog Coffee Company. Some heroes wear capes, ours wear a badge. Every single purchase you make goes to support law enforcement. So if you love the cops, if you support law enforcement, if you don't agree with defunding the police, if you want to make sure that they have good equipment, if you want to take care of law enforcement families, this is the only coffee that you want to drink. And not only that, their purpose is great, but the coffee is even better. You can sign up online very easily for freshly roasted specialty coffee to your door. You can choose weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly deliveries. Gifts and apparel also available. Law Dog Coffee Company, located at lawdogcoffee.com. Lawdogcoffee.com. That's lawdogcoffee.com. Use the promo code PCRadio for 10% off every purchase.
Prop 25 ends our right to put up bail for anyone, even though they may have been racially profiled. Prop 25 replaces bail with computer algorithms. Academic studies show that these algorithms are biased. Some call them black boxes. And Prop 25's new bureaucracy delays justice for innocent people stuck in jail. The NAACP asks you to vote no on Proposition 25.
Hey, it's Stu Peters with the Patriotically Correct Radio Show, here to talk to you more about Johnson Jewelers. I talk about them a lot. I talk about them because they're paying us to, but also because we have personal experience, or at least I do, with Johnson Jewelers. And if you have not had personal experience with Johnson Jewelers, it's because maybe that you were unaware, but now you are aware. And whether you're located near or around Woodbury, Minnesota is irrelevant, because Johnson Jewelers can provide service to you no matter where you are. Globally, internationally, as well as around the world at johnsonjewelers.com. Maybe you have that old pendant or crest or stone that you want turned into a custom piece of jewelry. Maybe you have some jewelry that needs to be restored, or maybe you want something completely new made for you. You have something in mind? Just a quick visit to the website, a couple of phone calls, an email exchanged here and there, and you have the personal custom piece of jewelry meant for you. Visit them online right now, johnsonjewelers.com, johnsonjewelers.com. That's johnsonjewelers.com.
I don't think that there's a lot of things that would have happened in my life if my last name wasn't Biden.
Like your investment firm striking $1 billion deal with a Chinese-owned bank 10 days after you and Joe visit, and collecting over $80,000 a month from a Ukrainian energy company after your father was named point man on Ukraine.
It is impossible for me to be on any of the boards that I just mentioned without saying that I'm the son of the Vice President of the United States.
The question is not why Hunter Biden used his name to get these gigs. It's why Joe Biden let him do it.
Hey, it's Stu Peters and Richard Leonard for Adjust Today Chiropractic. Now, I want you to take a look at this. This is the website for Adjust Today Chiropractic, which obviously is at adjusttodaychiropractic.com. Dr. Dustin Dukart says you're in good hands. He believes everyone has a chance to experience the benefits of chiropractic care. He'd love to find out how to skillfully take care of you and your spine, and that can be done even on Saturdays. He makes himself available on Saturdays. And Richard, you know how important it is to be properly aligned.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's no secret that proper alignment is good for you, not only in just an everyday health aspect, but also, I mean, it can help things that you don't even know that it helps. Now, Dr. Dustin Dukart does specialize in like athletic pain and things like that, but also, I mean, chiropractic care can help with allergies, migraines, all kinds of stuff. Visit him today, adjusttodaychiropractic.com, adjusttodaychiropractic.com. That's adjusttodaychiropractic.com.
The enemy of progressive politicians and politically correct assholes. PC Radio. Worldwide at thepcradioshow.com.
I told you that we were having a Canuck on today. Mike Phillip is the host of Americanuck Radio right here on Mojo 50 Radio on the iHeart radios. I don't know if he's been banned from Twitter yet. We'll have to ask him about that coming up. By the way, this portion of PC Radio brought to you by Law Dog Coffee. Go to lawdogcoffeepcradio.com, lawdogcoffeepcradio.com. The beautiful thing is, every purchase that you make, a portion of the sales go to the Wounded Blue, and we back the Blue here on PC Radio. And we are law and order type people. We like law, we like order. We don't like the burning of buildings. We don't support the looting and the stealing and the robbing and the assaulting and the extortion and the criminal activity or the autonomous zones that are sponsored by the very progressive, radical regime, Kamala. And the former vice president who are running to be the leaders of the free world. It's just the fact that we're even having this conversation, Richard, is completely beyond me. In 2020, we have a guy who has spent 47 years lying to the American people about who he cares about, similar to that of Maxine Waters out in California, who lies about caring about the ghetto and black people, but lives outside of her district in a $6 million mansion. Boy, I am really pulling for Joe Collins. If you're a California listener, you make sure if you're in that district that you get out there and you vote for that Navy veteran who actually grew up on the south side of LA and who cares about that community. Another conversation. Go ahead.
Defund Maxine.
Yes. Another conversation that I've been having with you recently off the air is about another hidden gem by the mainstream media. Things that the people refuse to talk about, and when you talk about it, you're a big conspiracy theorist, right? People don't believe you that there's over 100,000 Chinese troops just to the north of our U.S. border in Canada. And so you said to me that, oh, I don't believe that. I wouldn't believe that unless I talked to somebody that's from there. You were like calling me a liar and shit. And so you know what we're going to do? We're going to debt that right here. And we're going to go to the phones right now. Mike Phillip, the host of Americanuck Radio, Mojo 50 Radio. Welcome to PC Radio. It's your debut over here on this low-budget afternoon radio program.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on. I've had the honor of hosting for you guys before, and I really appreciated that. You guys are really good at what you do, and give it a little bit of time. In a very short order, I believe that everybody's going to know the names Stu and Richard across America.
Well, we appreciate that vote of confidence. I will say that when you filled in, our listenership did go up for us following that. So I guess there's some expectation that we're going to try to continue that level of professionalism. Need not be fooled. Don't be concerned with that. We absolutely won't. You've met my co-host over here, and so that we're swearing and we're going to get FCC violations and all kinds of stuff. By the way, if you want to see us in person and if you want to shake Richard's hand, we do the COVID shake. We don't mind at all. And you can meet us in person. You can lick his lips if you want to. We're going to be at JR's Barn in Waldorf, Minnesota, the We the People rally happening on October 25th. That is, what is that? This upcoming Sunday, right?
It is, yes. It's going to be chilly, but we're doing it.
Yes, we're not going to be pussies. We're gonna be there come hell or high water. Bring your freedom with you, by the way. Don't leave your freedom at home. Make sure that you bring all of your freedom for the We the People rally coming up. It's a kid-friendly event. And Mike Phillip, are you going to make the trip down? Are you going to be there to hang out and lick Richard's lips?
Ooh.
Well, first of all, I got to say that sounds absolutely awful. And number two, my dog sled is out of order, so I'll be sticking to the Edmonton area. But thoughts and prayers,
Thank you. Okay, so let's get into it. Any truth to this fact or this rumor that there are Chinese troops in your country waiting to invade America?
All right, so first of all, it's what I'm about to say is not verified by any official sources. Okay,
Ooh, I like that. Neither is the Hunter Biden story, by the way. That's not verified either. So,
yeah. So, but here's what I will tell you. There's a man named Kevin Annett, and he was a pastor for the United Church of Canada in a place called Port Alberni, BC, British Columbia. And I have become good friends with Kevin over the last 3 years. And Kevin was actually the one that exposed the story that the government of Canada, the RCMP, the United Church of Canada, and the Catholic Church were trafficking kids off of the native reserves. They set up what was called the residential schools, and they under the Indian Act, which if you look into it, there's a lot of talk about racism these days, and most of it is meaningless, but the Indian Act is actually the most racist document that you will ever see, and it's disgusting. But basically, it talks about removing Native kids from their parents and assimilating them into Canadian society. So what they did was they took all these kids away and handed them over to these residential schools. You can see old pictures of teepees outside of the fence perimeter of these schools with the parents just trying to see their kids. But it was ran by these priests, these Catholic priests, and these United Church of Canada pastors. And what they were doing was they were killing them and raping them and beating them. My kid's grandmother, I'm not going to say her name, but she's from a reserve in British Columbia. She was put into one of these when she was 8 years old. And she was beaten severely over a course of days because she spoke in her native language. And so she has some very awful memories, and it's estimated that there are about 150,000 kids buried across the prairies. And so Kevin, when he started his little church in Port Alberni, had these he had no natives coming to his church, and he saw a lot of them in the community, so he started reaching out to them, and they all took him aside and started telling him these stories about what was happening with the kids. So he raised the alarm with it, and the diocese told him, there's some things that you are not going to talk about, and he wouldn't stay silent, so they destroyed his life. And so Kevin was instrumental in causing the Stephen Harper administration, the guy that was in up here before Justin Trudeau, to apologize for the residential schools. Then Justin Trudeau, as recently as a couple years ago, admitted that the Canadian government was guilty of attempted genocide in Canada with these schools and with these kids and with the Indian Act. And so Kevin has a really good network of informants amongst the Vancouver police, amongst people on the street, and law enforcement. So Kevin was told that there's a contingency of Chinese Special Forces troops based out of their embassy, and I can't remember the name of the town. I think it's Prince Rupert, Prince George, one of the two, and that they are ready to roll. And he got this from informants within the Vancouver police and people on the street that there's talk of this. And Kevin has been a very good source over the years, and his sources have been very good. The other thing that I'm seeing is that some of the people that work on the bases are reporting through other people, this is secondhand, that there are Chinese training to fly at places like CFB Penholt. CFB stands for Canadian Forces Base. There's one in a place called Penholt. And one of the ladies that works on base said that it's full of Chinese that are being trained to fly. And she also said that they don't want to be there, okay? That some of them are expressing that they're being forced to doing what they're doing because their families are being held hostage back in mainland China, and that if they disobey or try to defect or leave the base, that basically their mother will be thrown in a gulag, much like what we've seen happen with this lady that was exposing the Chinese coronavirus, that it was made in a lab. Her mother has now been arrested. So the Chinese Communist Party has a very long history of doing things like this to their own people. Also, it's worth noting that the Canadian government signed an act called FIPA. FIPA stands for Foreign Investment Protection Act. And under the Foreign Investment Protection Act, the Chinese military or the Communist Party, if it buys up infrastructure in Canada, which it has on a large scale, they've got pipelines, they've got mines, but under the Foreign Investment Protection Act, the Chinese Communist Party can deploy its own security assets in Canada to protect their investments. That is a fact. And the Chinese Communist Party does not have private security services. Everything is CCP or PLA, People's Liberation Army. So all of the information coming out seems to be leading to one spot, and the Canadian government is apparently working with the Chinese Communist Party. They continuously talk about our Canada's need to divest from the United States, which is 85% of our GDP, and work more with China because that's the future. So that's the extent of it, but on its face, it looks bad. That's what I'll say.
Wow. Well, Richard, I guess that about does it for today.
You're welcome.
The fact that you can come in here and just drop knowledge like that, and then first of all, listen, I've had speculations, and I know people that are inside of United States government three-letter agencies who, they're sources of mine. And so, people always go, well, where are you hearing this crap from? Well, I'm hearing it from a very credible source. And, the question is this: how are these Chinese people getting into Canada without being detected? So if that's true, that would be my first question. Because the first thing you want to do when you get into some allegations or rumors like this is you want to try to discredit it, because the natural, human side of you doesn't want to believe it, especially if you're a freedom-loving American who understands that the real enemy is not Antifa, the real enemy is not racism, the real enemy is not even these liberal progressive radicals. The real enemy is Russia. The real enemy is China. And just as they introduce this propaganda into our country, I've said it before, that we run out of our ammunition, we go buy all the ass wipe off the shelf, we get rid of all the essential goods like water and this and that from the grocery stores and the supermarkets in our area. And then as soon as we're depleted and half of our population has killed each other off, that's when the real enemy comes. And so I've cautioned people, hold on to your ammunition, because this is something that I've speculated is going to happen. But to discredit it, my first question is, okay, if there's that many Chinese troops in British Columbia, Canada, how do they get in there undetected?
Well, several ways. I mean, you've got the same problem. And actually, there's a man named Stephen W. Mosher who wrote a book called Bully of Asia. He was actually one of the first Westerners to go into China. He was very excited about it. He wanted to see this utopia that Mao had set up. And when he went in, he witnessed forced abortions by military doctors without anesthetic, because the local doctors refused to drag women out and force them into abortions. He came back traumatized and wrote
when did
the
this
most
happen?
extensive treatise on China. And I've had him on my show. If you'd like, I can put him in touch with you guys as well. He'll give you a new understanding. But what China does, and it's not just in Canada, but it was in the United States as well, is what they do is they pour funding into the universities, and they've got what's called these Confucius Institutes. And so they have infected our universities with propaganda. Now, you ask, how do they get in? Well, that's actually the most simple part of the whole equation. That's the easiest part of it all. Number one, if the Canadian government was allowing them to fly them in on troop transports, there's no way that you would ever know that. Canada's humongous. It's about 1 million square miles larger than the continental United States of America. And there's tons of ways that you could bring people in. But the other way that they're bringing them in, as was reported to me by Kevin Annette, was that they're actually coming in on work visas and school visas and working as cab drivers and just menial tasks, but standing by waiting for orders. It is, and not just China, but it's also estimated that there are some 20,000 odd Pakistani troops in Vancouver as well. So, I mean, how would you get them in? That's actually probably the easiest part of the whole equation. And if you've noticed, President Trump has been hammering the university connections and arresting profs that have been taking money from the Chinese Communist Party. I also have a source that we call Chinese Jim, and he's a dissident, and he came on my show a few weeks ago to talk about how these university professors double as hitmen in China and rise through the ranks with the Chinese Communist Party. They actually earn their bones by going into the northwest regions where the Uyghurs are, by removing Uyghur men from their homes and raping and killing women and children, and that's where they own their bones. One more thing I want to mention about this whole situation is that we recently had a Chinese envoy in Canada here, a representative of the Chinese Communist Party, that warned the government of Canada because the Canadian government was talking about taking in refugees from Hong Kong because there's a lot of Canadians in Hong Kong, and the Chinese envoy told our government, look, if you're going to take refugees from Hong Kong to save them from what's happening with the CCP, he said, you had better consider the health and welfare of Canadians in Hong Kong and Canada. That's a threat.
Absolutely.
Wow. So, Richard, you were the naysayer here. What questions do you have for Mike? I mean, obviously you want to try to discredit this in some way, right?
Well, no, I don't know that I was ever trying to discredit it. I was probably more referring to the source in which it came from.
Oh, all right. My sources are no good.
I didn't say that either. All I was simply trying to explain to you was that as a person who holds a security clearance for the U.S. government, it's probably not a good idea for me to be talking publicly about somebody who's leaking information that they shouldn't be to you, who's not a government official.
Understood.
That's a huge problem.
It is, and it happens all the time. I mean, everybody in the media has sources. We have sources inside of the Minneapolis Police Department that tell us information that we opine on, but we would never give up our sources because we don't have to.
That's true.
So I'm just getting a message here from Jason Lewis.
Let me just say, I totally understand Richard's skepticism because this does sound fantastic. It sounds far out, but I mean, just like the British SAS motto, who dares wins, usually it's a daring thing when a military decides to take over another country or move in or extort a foreign government. And I mean, look at the extortion that we have between Joe Biden and the Chinese Communist Party. Look, Pierre Elliott Trudeau, the father of Justin Trudeau, who is now Prime Minister, was one of the first Western leaders. In fact, I think he was the first Western leader to recognize the government of Mao Zedong when they took it over and Chiang Kai-shek went into hiding abroad. It said that Mao Zedong threw his head back and laughed a big belly laugh and said, it would seem that we have a new friend in America's backyard. So the irony was not lost on him. Yet what you have to understand about the Chinese Communist Party is that they don't make a plan for 15 minutes. They plan 200 years ahead, okay? And they are meticulous about it. And you talk about white supremacy, that word being thrown around. The Chinese, not the people necessarily, but the government and the officials, they don't believe that they have a right to run the planet. They know they have a right to run the planet. It is their official doctrine that they will take over everything. And if you look at their One Belt, One Road initiative, they're doing the same thing in Africa. They move in and they say, look, we'll build these massive infrastructure projects for you, ports, and it'll be good for your people. It'll be good for your economy. And then they jack up the interest rates. They demand more payment that the country has. And then they say, well, okay, then this is our land now. This is sovereign Chinese territory. They start putting in bases. So, I mean, that what I told you about the Foreign Investment Protection Act follows the same pattern that they do all over the world. And if you want to have Stephen Mosher on, an expert on it, I'll be glad to make that connection for you. He has been deemed an enemy of the Chinese people by the Communist Party of China, and that makes him an automatic friend of mine.
Wow.
And you know, I don't think that I have as much skepticism as I do understanding. I think that it's not a surprise to me that a foreign government would be doing things like that. You know, I think we'd all be dumbfounded to see it actually happen and come into place.
Yeah, it's going to be horrible.
My whole thing was just to question the source in which it came from.
Yeah.
And my involvement in such source.
You know, listen, a couple of things that I want to discredit here. First of all, you made the allegation that there's this term white supremacy that's going around. I've never heard any such thing. I don't know where that's coming from. That's way off base and completely racist. Yeah. The other thing is, you know, I've attempted many times to hide abroad, and I get busted every time. So I don't know if I can believe any of this stuff, Mike.
You are welcome to your perspective, as hilarious as it may be, Stu.
All right. Also going on in Canada now, we have a border issue going on between Canada and the United States as it relates to COVID. So my father, for example, owns a lake home in Canada on Red Lake, okay? And he loves going up there. He's been going up there since he was a child. He recently acquired some land up there, and he's got a home there, and he fishes there, and he goes up basically all summer long and then comes back here. Or does he go up there in the wintertime? No, he goes up there summertime, yep. And he lives there during the summer, 3 weeks out of every month, and then he comes back here. He can't do that anymore. Why is that?
Well, let's instead of just looking at COVID, let's go back a few years here. When I was a kid, you could go across the border with nothing but a driver's license. Actually, there was times when we would go down to Havre, Montana, because my grandmother took the train from Chicago, and we would drive down from the Edmonton area to the train station in Havre, Montana to pick her up. And I remember driving through with just kind of a wave and hey, what are you doing? Going to pick up my mom. Okay, great. And there was no identity required. So when did the lockdown of the U.S.-Canada, the longest unguarded border in the world, happen? It came about because of 9/11 and the Patriot Act. Okay, so I mean, no matter what your views are on 9/11, we would not be where we are today if that foundation of the Patriot Act wasn't brought in. Then all of a sudden, well, you've got to have a passport to go across that border. Why? Well, because we got to keep Ahmed out. He might kill Americans, and we've got to stop that flow of traffic. Now, at the same time, you also had the hoof and mouth disease thing going on, where people had to stop at the airport, take their shoes off, and step on that stupid little disinfectant map. Because why? Well, because you might wipe out the cattle industry. They cared so much about the cattle industry back then. And so you've had all these layers upon layers of things going back probably 30 years, that it's this constant chipping away at the freedom of movement to cross that border. Now, at the same time that the Canadian government is saying, we've had Americans that have been thrown in jail here for not self-quarantining. There was a man from Kentucky just about 3 hours south of me in Banff who came here to meet a girl, and employees of hotels started phoning the police because they were seeing Kentucky license plates, and naturally the first thing you do is shit yourself in fear because there's an American here and COVID, right? So that man has been arrested. It is in custody in Canadian jail right now. Now, at the same time you have this happening, you have refugee applicants from the United States claiming that they are afraid for their life because of the orange man is going to kill them. And so Canada is taking in a flood of refugees in the area of Roxham Road in Quebec, where they can just walk across, and they've been able to this whole time. You remember that we had all those Haitian immigrants come into the United States after that big earthquake, and their little amnesty period that they could stay in the United States was up a few years ago. Well, they were flooding across the border into Quebec, where the government was giving them huge benefits. They were getting access to free dental, free optical, things that Canadians don't even get. And they set up the football stadium in Montreal in order to house them all. At the same time this reached a peak where you had masses of them coming across, it came out that one of the Clinton Foundation initiatives was going on WhatsApp in order to give them instructions on where to cross, how to get across, what kind of benefits and what kind of welfare benefits there would be if they came into Canada. And so at the same time you had that happening, it turns out that Bill and Hillary have a vacation home in the Laurentian Mountains in Quebec, just mere miles from where these Haitian immigrants were coming across.
You're kidding.
And they were there. No, I'm not joking about this at all.
No
I remember
way.
it all. And so it was almost like they were there monitoring the operation. And if you remember, what the Haitians in New York and Miami absolutely hate the Clintons, and it came out that they were trafficking kids out. So it looked like another trafficking operation. And I'll tell you what else, these Haitians that came into Canada, you don't hear a lot from them anymore, so nobody even knows what the heck's happening with them.
Well, Mike Phillip, this is only the beginning of your appearances here on PC Radio. We're definitely going to have you back. It's great because it's kind of like Richard and I can just take the day off. Nobody can filibuster quite like Mike Phillip. American Oct Radio, Mojo 50 Radio on iHeartRadio. Just search the station Mojo 50 and give our audience the times of your show. I'm sure they're all going to want to tune in after hearing this.
We're on from 1 to 2 Central Standard Time, and we've got some huge information coming out right away from a former CIA contractor, Wayne Simmons, that was thrown in jail for 2 years for exposing Benghazi by the Clinton Foundation and the D.C. law firm Perkins Coie. And now this is all coming to the forefront, and well, that's where we're going to be going. So, yeah, 1 to 2 Central on Mojo 50. Stu and Rich, thank you so much for having me on your show. I truly appreciate it.
Anytime. We appreciate you being here. Thanks a lot. And stay warm up there. We know that you're dealing with the snow just like we are here in the Minneapolis, St. Paul, Twin Cities metropolitan area, where we broadcast live on our show every day at 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern. That time slot may be changing, so stay tuned for changes there. We will announce that change on Facebook as long as we're permitted to be there. We'll also tweet it out at Real Stu Peters, at Correct Radio, at Real Richard J. I submitted another article I believe is going to be published today as an op-ed, at least some point today, called Weaponizing the Police. That can be found on opslens.com. That's OPSLENS. Make sure that you download the OpsLens app, get over and do a Clout Hub registration as well. I'm telling you, I've never had so much fun on social media as I'm having on Clout Hub. The anxiety that comes along with Facebook doesn't seem to exist on Clout Hub. It's really, really nice. And there are some big things coming up on Clout Hub as well, where this thing is going to expand into, I mean, they're talking like 2 million people a day are going to start downloading this thing. Richard Dreyfuss is on over there at Clout Hub as well. Rocky Stucci, the Situation Room, is now on Clout Hub. Ray Dietrich is over there for, Blue Lives TV Uncensored, another great one. So Team Trump is on over there. Make sure that you go over there. Richard, your final words for today.
Head on a swivel, folks. People are coming.
Yeah. See, now are you starting to believe this Chinese mantra?
I never disbelieved it, bro.
All right. Well, it seemed to me that you had a problem believing it, but that's okay. Now we've got it all cleared. Mike Phillip is here to provide us the truth, and he's
Mike we trust.
I think in Mike we trust, of the United States of America, for which he stands. He wishes he was an American. He does. He's stuck up there in that socialist regime up there. It's terrible. We would love to have you, Mike. Come on down anytime. This is Stu. That is Rich. This is that aggressive music that we like so much. We'll see you tomorrow. PC Radio. More coming at you tomorrow at 4. Have a good day.